And welcome to the Michael Zehr Show. It's a cold day out today. Today's date is January 12th, 2024, and we're streaming to you from the Rising Eagle Studios here at the Warrior Healing Center in Sierra Vista, Arizona. I'd like to welcome our special guest veteran today, Ken Adams. Ken, sir, thank you so much for coming in and sitting down and sharing your time and your story with us today. We really appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
So, my first question to you is, what was it that inspired you to join the military, or how did that come about?
Primarily, it was because, my father was in the Army, and he was put out on a medical after 8 years, but he always, told stories about how much he loved being in the military and how much it physically meant to him. So I was raised in a quasi-military family, so it seemed like the direction to go that I had decided on at early age.
So again, it sounds like more family history. So many of these interviews that I do have that family connection and that family connection and that family history.
That's correct.
Of service to our nation, and it's a great and honorable tradition to be carried from household to household. So what branch did you join?
I joined the Army.
Joined the Army. What year?
1968.
In '68.
Long time ago.
Was Vietnam still going on at that time, wasn't it?
It was, yes.
Did you get drafted, or you just signed up?
No, I was 17 years old and I enlisted.
Did you end up going to Vietnam?
I did not.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about your military service. For example, where did you go for basic training, and what was your MOS?
Initially, I went to Fort Dix, New Jersey for basic training, and from there I went to Fort Bliss and was in Army Air Defense Command.
Oh, wow.
And I worked on the Nike Hercules missile. Then I took a short, re-enlisted, went back to Fort Bliss for it was a 60-week long course in radar and computer repair for the Nike Herc missile system. From there, I was there was a large portion of us going to Vietnam, so we all waited on what our orders were, and I guess fortunately I was selected to be an instructor at the school, so I stayed on and I was an instructor for Allied soldiers on the Nike Herc missile system.
At Fort Bliss?
Correct.
How long were you there for, doing the instructor position?
About 4 years.
Wow.
About 4 years, yeah.
Wow. And what was next after you did that?
Well, I got out of the service.
Okay.
And I did my 4 years, 10 months and got out. And went back home to upstate New York and actually found going home to be somewhat depressing. So I married a girl who was born and raised in Tucson, Arizona, and I took her to Vermont, and that didn't work. One winter, and she was ready to go home. So I actually went down the recruiting station and signed up and went back in. And the scenario at that time was if I went back to my old MOS, which was 24Q, if I went back to my old MOS, I could go back in at the same rank that I got out. If I changed MOSs, I'd have to go back to an E3. I was an E5 when I got out, so that was easy math. So I went back to my old MOS, and I ended up going back to the same schoolhouse. Back to being an instructor.
Instructor again?
Yes.
And how long was your break in service?
My break in service was about 13 months.
Okay, wow. You had to get a little bit of updated training, though? I mean, had things changed within that 13-month period very much?
I had to go through what an abbreviated basic training, not the basic training that you and I were raised with. It's kind of an orientation type thing. It's 2.5 weeks.
Okay.
And that was pretty much to get me updated as far as medical, get me reissue of uniforms, and that type of thing. So it was pretty easy. I mean, it didn't take long for me to get back in the saddle. I actually went back. I had the same NCOIC I had when I got out.
Wow, isn't that strange that worked out like that? When you went back to that position and you were going back as an instructor again, did you have to do any updated training for the instructor? Had the MOS itself actually changed in that 13-month period?
No, it hadn't. So I pretty much went back in, and I was assigned classes within the first week I was there.
So you knew everything, knew what to do right off the bat then.
Well, no, I had to do some cramming in the beginning to kind of orientate myself back up to it. Things that I knew, it's easier to relearn than it is to learn for the first time.
Oh, okay. So how many years did you serve in the Army?
Just under 21.
Under 21 years, so that you did retire. I thought that you had retired. So when you had said that you served the 4 years and got out, and I thought, oh, wait a minute, that can't be the end of the story now, can it?
No, yeah.
Yeah, so tell us, in that 21 years that you were in the military, what was your favorite duty station and why? What made it your favorite?
Favorite duty station? Well, when I was with the Nike Herc missile system, and during that time period, they came out with a Safeguard missile system, which was a new and unique, almost an ICBM type system. And so they hadn't built any missile sites yet, but they were firing the missiles down at Kwajalein, the island out in the Marshall Islands. And I was assigned out there, which is somewhat isolated duty, but you became, it's a very close-knit family type scenario. So,
and where's this at?
Kwajalein, it's in the U.S. Marshall Islands.
Okay, all right.
So I was out there for about 8 months. I was supposed to be there longer, but at that time the president had signed the Russia Peace Pact, and the Safeguard missile system never happened.
Wow.
So
and what year was that?
73? 1973.
Okay.
74, that time period.
So Vietnam was just winding down, getting close to winding down.
Starting to wind down.
A little bit.
I went back to Fort Bliss and getting ready to go back to being an instructor for Allied students. At that time, the Army was going from the draft to the all-volunteer Army.
Okay.
And it used to be recruiting duty was kind of a retirement assignment for like senior E7s, so they could go back to their hometown and have like a 2-year transition period, when they retired, so they'd be back in the fold of their community. The Army had decided that if we're going to go to an all-volunteer force, that they needed younger people out on recruiting duty. So it was mandatory while we were there. Every E5 that was under the age of 25 had to go for counseling or interview, if you will, with USAREC Recruiting Command. And so I went for my interview. When it was over with, I said, "Well, that's nice. Thank you. It sounds great. Getting ready to go back to work." And the individual looked at me and said, "No, hang on." And he handed me a Rand McNally and said, "Where would you like to be stationed?" So I had no idea. So I picked my hometown. That wasn't available. I picked Tucson, Arizona, because of where my wife was from. That wasn't available. And so I started going through. I asked them what was available, and thought I was going to be clever, and I was going to pick some place that was at least close to a military base, so I could get military benefits. So I ended up in New London, Connecticut. I was an Army recruiter at the New London Naval Submarine Base.
Oh gosh.
That was a great assignment. I was there for almost 5 years.
So you were an Army recruiter on a naval station.
Sure.
For 5 years.
Yeah.
That had to be fun.
It was. It was. I was an E5, made E6 out there, and when it came time to make E7, I can honestly tell you that one of the biggest thrills I ever had was the Navy recruiter in New London, Connecticut decided he was going to put me through chief initiation. So I went through the Naval Chief Initiation, which if anybody who's ever been in the Navy knows what's involved with that.
Tell us a little bit about that. What is involved?
It's basically the scenario that you've got to learn how to be humble and learn how to take orders before you can give orders.
Right.
I had to wear a costume that required very humiliating costume. I had to stand court, and I found out real quick that they'd come up with all these Trump charges, but if you disagreed with them and you went to the judge, you're not going to win. So the fine levels were very, very, very high, but you learned to just go with it. It was one of the greatest experiences I had in the military. It was really, really great. And the acceptance level once you go through chief initiation is
They look at you. The Navy personnel look at you differently.
absolutely. I got to go out
A little
on
bit more respect.
I got to go out on submarines. I went to the escape tower. I got an awful lot of experience that.
You got to go in a sub,
Oh, several of them.
like underwater. I'm like submerged too.
Yeah, what would happen? I mean, I didn't go out on 6-month deployment.
No,
but a lot of times what they would do is they would take the like the Casimir Pulaski was one of them. They would take it out and submerge it in the Thames River and take it out just to do underwater testing. It's a day type thing, and then they come back. But
So you would do something like that.
I got to play with the periscope.
Now, see, that's interesting. Being an Army person in the military, in Army, and here you are in the Navy, and you're. I mean, that is really cool. That not very many people that I've spoke to that have served have had that experience.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a great experience and great. You develop a great admiration for the work that they do, especially the subservice, the sacrifices those people make. I was actually living in Navy housing, and it was July, and my next door neighbor was putting storm windows on his home, and I'm going, yeah, it just seemed like a queer scenario. Why are you putting storm windows? But he knew he was going out on deployment, and he wasn't going to be back in time to put them on for the winter. So
Wow.
So, but I mean, some of these people, especially in a fast attack, they spend months underwater. So, my hat's off to them.
I don't know this, so that's why I'm asking this question for recruiting purposes. Did you guys ever have like little off the side bets between the branches, like who could recruit the most people and within a certain period of time?
No, the closest thing we came to a bet is I was reassigned after Connecticut. I was reassigned to Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Okay.
On recruiting duty, and when it came time for the Army-Navy game, the Navy historically would always win the Army-Navy football game. So I had a bet with the Navy recruiter that whoever lost had to pull the other recruiter in a rickshaw around downtown Santa Fe. And to my good luck, that year the Army won. So I got to ride in a rickshaw pulled by a Navy chief down around Governor's Square in Santa Fe.
Oh, wow.
So that was a moment.
Our Army won this last year here in 2023 too. Yeah. They won the game, so it was pretty.
Yeah, it's fun. So it's hard duty though. I mean, people think that recruiting duty is kind of laid back, and it's very, very difficult duty. The one thing they used to tell you is that during peacetime, recruiting command is the only command in the Army that has a mission.
Right.
Think about it; it's true.
Yep.
And it's the hero to zero syndrome is there because it doesn't matter what you did last month; it's what you're doing this month. And working, some recruiters will work from 6 o'clock in the morning till 8, 9 o'clock at night, 6 days a week, to make their quota.
Right.
And it's hard on the family. It's a hard life.
And a lot of recruiters too. You don't just sit around the office waiting for people to come to you. Don't you also go out into the community and also like at the high schools and stuff like that and give talks and stuff?
You go to the schools. Yes, you give talks. You spend a lot of time in people's homes, talking to them. During that time period, if you think about it, Vietnam was coming to an end when I first started, right, and still fresh in a lot of people's minds. So the military wasn't looked upon as well as it is today.
So you're considered a Vietnam era vet then?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
That I don't use that term strictly because I think it takes away from the sacrifice that the people who went to Vietnam did.
Right.
But I was fortunate. So I mean, I had some unique service. I mean, I retired out of Kirkland Air Force Base. So
As a recruiter, was there any one specific recruit that you can think of that kind of stood out to you, that like maybe came back to you and thanked you for like, several? Tell us about that, what that was like.
I think the biggest thing that happened was when I was in Connecticut. There was a young man who was somewhat disjointed with his family. He'd graduated from high school the year prior, and but he had not established any sense of direction. He was just treading water, if you will.
Right.
And so he decided to go into the service, and while he was in the service, the first time he came home on leave, and when he went back, I got a visit from his mom. And his mom brought me a ceramic statue of a soldier that had Adams written on it.
Oh, wow.
And gave me a big hug and a big kiss and told me that the young man that came home had nothing to do with the boy that left.
Wow.
And
do you still have that statue today?
I certainly do have that statue.
Oh, we should have brought it. I should have had. Oh, that would have been cool to see.
Yeah.
Maybe if you come back in a future broadcast or something, maybe we could do that. You could bring that.
I'll be happy.
That would be awesome. I'd love to see that. What a great story. Wow.
But he ended up making a career out of it. Another individual that I had was very, very sharp, extremely bright. He went in and he called me up and he said that he had been approached to go to the West Point Prep School up at Fort Monmouth, New Jersey. So he went to West Point Prep School and graduated. And one of the things I did is I did several field trips with people that I had in the late entry program in Connecticut. And we drove a van and we'd go to West Point because he was a cadet at West Point.
Wow.
And so he gave us a tour of West Point every time I took young
Was
men.
that your first time there at West Point?
No.
Oh, no. Okay.
No, I actually, when I first went in, I was assigned to a missile site outside of New York City, and our finance center was West Point. So, So I had to go there for finance.
But as far as getting a tour of the base and all that stuff, though?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of it makes you feel good that that West Point cadet who went on to become an officer and a career officer in the Army was a young man that you put in. Wow. And it gave a lot of credence to what you can accomplish if you put your mind to it. You know, the slogan in those days was be all you can be, and the emphasis is on that is you. I mean, if you want to go in there and coast, you're welcome to do that. But if you want to go in there and excel, and be everything that you have the capabilities of becoming, the military is there to support you.
See, I enlisted in 1977, well, 76, but by the time I got there, and I had nothing but admiration and respect for my recruiter, because he didn't lie to me, he didn't mislead me into thinking anything, and actually gave me a great idea of exactly what to expect and what to do to get through basic training without getting in any trouble or anything like that. And he gave me quite a bit of valuable tips and information, and so
I needed your recruiter when I first went in, because as a 17-year-old smart aleck teenager, basic training was an eye-opener for me.
But my gosh, I was 19, and I couldn't hold a job or anything. I mean, I was treading water, like you were talking about that other guy. So yeah, I think that the military definitely can take somebody that's in that position and mold them into becoming a good soldier and a good man. And I think that military service is one of those things that teaches you how to be a man. It does.
It teaches you to be independent. I got married at age 19, and people say, gosh, that's extremely young. And I said, well, yes, but you have to understand that I had been on my own for 3 years, from 17 to, when I say 19, I was a month shy of 20.
And was this Diana?
Diana, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been married to her for 54 years in August.
Congratulations, yeah.
But
wow, that's a long time.
I've learned to be independent, and not going from living with mom and dad to getting married. I've been on my own for 3 years, almost 3 years.
Right. That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about what it was like after you retired from the military and transitioning into the civilian sector. What was that experience like for you?
It was very difficult. I mean, I retired out at the time. I was sidebar type. I was a battalion sergeant major when I got out of the service.
You were an E9.
Yes.
Wow, I did not know that, Ken.
And actually, I retired as an E8.
Okay.
And what had happened is I was a first sergeant, and the battalion sergeant major had retired, and at that time there was a freeze on PCSs. So luck would have it, they pulled me from the company and brought me up to the battalion and frocked me as an E9.
But you were getting paid as an E8?
Getting paid as an E8, wearing an E9
Right.
E9 stripe.
Right.
And so the following year, I had come out on the 9 list. Right. So I'd made E9, and I already decided and talked with the family, about retirement, when we were going to retire. So there's a 2-year lock-in. So I almost had my wife convinced to stay in for the 2-year lock-in, but then they wanted me to go to Sergeant Major's Academy, which is an additional 2-year lock-in, and they can't run consecutive. So I had to do the 2 years for Sergeant Major plus 2 years, and I just decided that was too much. So I put in my retirement. So I retired as an E8.
Right. Yeah, I always find the Army how they get around doing that by taking somebody in a lower rank, and they give them all the responsibilities and privileges of wearing the E9 rank, but without any of the pay and any of the benefits.
True.
That happens quite a bit in the military.
Yeah, but the perk is that if you are successful, it kind of puts you on a fast track. I mean, I made E9 out of the secondary list.
So that E9 experience, do you think that helped you in the promotion?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
How does that work? Do you get like promotion points for anything like that?
No, you don't get promotion points, but what happens is that, it's a...
just the experience.
Well, the board, the people who sit on the board are E9s.
Okay.
Right? And if they see that you're doing E9 duty,
okay,
they my opinion, they rank you higher than an E8 doing E8 duty.
Oh, good answer.
So,
gotcha.
So I was a first sergeant wearing staff sergeant major stripe. I was not a command sergeant major. I was staff sergeant major.
Right.
And so it helped me. It helped me make the rank, and it was a good duty assignment. So it was a win-win scenario for me.
So going back to when you were talking about when you were transitioning into the civilian sector, what were some of the issues that you were having?
Well, if you understand the responsibility that you have when you're a senior NCO in the military, and the responsibility you have to both people and budgets and equipment, you're responsible for an awful lot. And then when you get out and you first apply for your first job, it's very humbling sitting on the other side of the desk, right, talking to somebody who's 23, 25 years old, and trying to explain to them that, when you tell them that you were in the Army, to them, the only thing they knew about the Army was, the John Wayne films.
Right.
And I actually had one individual say, "So you've never had a job before?" I didn't know how to respond to that. And the irony is when I got out, several of the people that were instructors with me at Fort Bliss had moved to Phoenix, Arizona, and went to work for Motorola. So actually,
wow.
One of the friends of mine called me up. He said, "Oh, when you retire, he said, come to Phoenix." He said, "Motorola's, is a great place to work." So I went to Motorola and applied for employment there, and they said, "Well, we don't hire off the street. We hire through employment agencies. They bring them in as a 90-day temp, and if you work out, then they'll hire you." So I said, "Okay," and so I asked them what employment agencies they went to, and they wouldn't recommend one over another, but they gave me the approved list. The first one I went to, while they were interviewing me, they saw that I was on recruiting duty, and they said, "Well, you can work here." So I ended up working for a staffing company. That was my first job when I got out.
So where were you stationed when you retired?
Albuquerque, New Mexico.
All right. How did you end up coming to Cochise County?
Well, I 16 years up in Tucson. And
Okay.
One of my customers, I was in sales at the time. One of my customers was here at Fort Huachuca.
What kind of sales were you in?
Government. Well, I was doing government contracting plus.
Okay.
Plus, I was doing staffing. I had several clients. Microsoft and Boeing were my two biggest clients.
Okay.
But there was a organization on Fort Huachuca that was one of my clients as well, and came down for a sales call with him. And I happened to make the comment, I fell in love with Sierra Vista. So I happened to make the comment, I said, if I could find a job that paid halfway decent, I'd move to Sierra Vista.
Uh-huh.
So the following month when I came down here, he said, well, while you're here, you need to go talk to these people. So I thought he was just giving me a sales lead. I went there, started telling them about the company that I work for. They kept asking personal questions to me. And I said, well, this feels more like a job interview than, oh yeah. I said, well, the individual's name was Stacy. So Stacy called us and said, I'm sending a guy over, hire him. That's how I ended up in Cochise County.
What was it? What was the one thing that stuck out in your mind about Cochise County that you loved so much?
I'm from a small town.
Okay.
And
is it because it was a military retiree town, or was it the scenery?
The fact that it had the base, the fact that it didn't have the congestion that Phoenix has. I lived in Tempe. Didn't have the congestion that Phoenix has. The cost of living in Phoenix was much higher. It would take me an hour and 20 minutes to get to work every day.
Right.
If you're familiar with the area up there, I lived in...
And it's worse now.
I lived in the southern part of Tempe, and my office was up in the northeast, up in Peoria. So I had to drive through downtown Phoenix every day to get to and from work. So,
yeah, Phoenix, they're just adding. They keep adding more and more highway and roadway, freeway.
Absolutely.
It's just like, yeah.
So anyway, so I came down, and it was the best move we made. My wife loves it here. She was born and raised in Tucson, so
Okay.
she's in her environment. I met her in El Paso, but she's in her environment. Excuse me.
Well, it's not far from Tucson. It's a quick hop, skip, and a jump, pretty much.
Sure.
So tell us, how was it that you got involved with the Elks and the DAV? Because I know that you're with the Elks. We were talking off camera. You were the Arizona project manager. You were saying, what was it again?
Arizona Elks Major Projects, which is their charitable organization they have for the banner. And plus they have a youth camp up about 60 miles north of Globe, to where any youth organization can go there. It doesn't cost them a dime.
What's the name of it?
Elks Youth Center.
Elks Youth Center. And where's it at?
It's just south of Young. It's up in the mountains. It's,
okay.
The first question every kid asks is, where's your Wi-Fi? And we don't have a Wi-Fi. And say, unfortunately, the whole time you're here, you're going to have to talk to each other.
Oh my gosh, that's because we always see kids are like this on their.
The phone won't work up there.
Yeah, that's good.
But we have a lot of youth groups that go up there. They give a small security deposit, lack of anything else, to go up there to secure their reservation. Once they're done, they get the deposit back, so it virtually costs nothing. The Elks Scouting, our Troop 444, they go up there every year and spend a week up there, and it's just, it's great. We have 13 cabins now, and so it's just a super place for them to go.
And it doesn't cost them anything to go up there.
Nothing. They just have to bring their own food.
Oh.
Own food and a sleeping bag, and their life is good.
And what are some of the other projects we were talking off camera about Banner Health in Tucson?
Steel Children's Research Center.
Yeah.
We actually have a wing that's dedicated to Arizona elks. We contribute. We've been sponsoring them. One of their contributors. We've given over $9 million to them for their research. Dr. Kashan is the director up there. He's just an absolutely brilliant individual. And so, what they do to help children and to help a lot of digestive, gastro problems. The last thing to be developed on a child is the respiratory system. So that's basically where they focus, because they started off as neonatal, premature.
Right.
The work that they do is just, if you go there, and you can take a tour, if you go there, you can see miracles happening every day. You really can.
Yeah, my dad, he's a past exalted ruler from Lake Havasu. He lives down here now and is involved with our lodge down here. Is it 2058?
2065.
65, sorry. I got, Shawnee's probably going to give me that now.
You-
Because I didn't remember the numbers.
You're not adult now,
2065.
you know you messed
I'm in
up,
trouble.
right?
Yeah, I messed up. Anyhow, a lot of elks across the state that I've met by going to the different lodges, they all take pride and talk about the Arizona Elks Wing there at Banner, because so many different lodges do so many different things throughout the year, right?
True, and this little lodge that we have here in Sierra Vista has contributed over $1 million just in the local community.
Right.
I mean, Peaches Pantry, Salvation Army, Boys and Girls Club, Scouting. So we're involved in Special Olympics. I'm trying to think of everything that goes on. And we actually have a veterans organization inside the Elks that we do an awful, well, you're familiar with that. We do an awful lot of work for the veterans, local veterans and their families here.
And you have a veterans shed there at the Elks Lodge now
do
as
now.
well.
Yeah.
I was talking with Ed Stone at the last spaghetti dinner, and the Elks generously donated a bunch of items to the Warrior Healing Center to help some of the homeless veterans
Absolutely.
in our community and stuff, because we see a lot of that here, and we can help them out. And the fact that he reached out and made that generous offer, it's huge, because it helps the whole community.
Yeah, they don't call it that anymore, but I mean, and we do an awful lot at the stand downs.
Right.
I'm still used to calling it a stand down. So.
Right. What do they call them now? I don't even know what to call it anymore. But yeah, I know the stand down as well. So, and then you also do the chapter service officer over at the DAB chapter 14,
Correct.
and give us a little idea what that's like when you're helping other veterans file their claims and stuff. That's pretty rewarding. Give us a little idea about what you do there.
We do an awful lot. We help. We're the liaison, if you will, DAV between the veteran and the VA. We don't work for VA. We work in conjunction with VA.
Right.
But we're there to support the veteran. We're there to help the veteran prepare their claim for service-connected disabilities. And the other thing that's often forgotten is that we're there for the veteran's family as well.
Right.
There's an awful lot of sadly, there's an awful lot of service members that don't share military benefits with their family, their spouses, and
And they don't know.
and when they pass, the spouse hasn't got a clue of what his or her benefits are. So I mean, we're there to help them with that as well.
So I would highly recommend anybody that has any questions on veteran benefits to definitely come and see you. You're there on what day? Tuesday, right?
Tuesday. But the office is open Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday, 12 to 4.
12 to 4, correct.
And they're located in the Cochise College nursing campus there.
Correct.
And I always tell people that if you want to go see the DAB, the easiest way is to go in the door that's facing El Camino Real, and then the DAB is right there. It's the very first office that
Just
you
keep
see.
walking straight. You walk right into the door.
Yeah. But isn't it also rewarding, though? Because not only are you helping the veteran, as a service officer, you're the first one that's actually engaging with the veteran, hearing his story, because when you're getting this information to file their claim, the VA is not privy to the conversations that you have with the veteran. Then we fill out all the paperwork, send it in to the DAB, and then they take over and deal with the VA. But still, it's nice. Wouldn't you say it's a good feeling knowing that we're helping these veterans get their benefits that they earned?
Yes.
These are benefits that they earned. A lot of times, and I'll talk to a veteran and I don't want to bother. But these are benefits you earned.
They are, and I mean, and especially if you take during the Vietnam era, because that was my era, and one individual comes. I mean, he's had surgery on both of his knees. All right, and it happened while he was in Vietnam, and he was a 2-year draftee. He actually did 21 months in the service because he got an early out because of Vietnam. And I told him, I said, well, I said, why aren't you going to the VA and getting disability? Because he basically shattered both of his knees. And his army said, I don't feel like I'm entitled to it because I only did 21 months in the military.
See, there you
what
go.
What a negative attitude. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, you gave above and beyond, what was asked of you, right? And you're paying the price, and you need somebody on your side supporting you.
Especially somebody in his case is putting his life on the line every day, not knowing whether you're going to have the opportunity to come home.
Sure.
A lot of our Vietnam veterans sadly didn't have that opportunity. So, yeah, these are benefits that were earned. And any veteran that feels that they didn't earn it or that they don't deserve it, I just don't understand that.
And we don't make the DAV does not make the determination of whether you're entitled
correct.
to
That's
the
the
benefits. VA. That's the VA that makes that determination. And it hurts sometimes, or it's uncomfortable sometimes, right, if you don't have an answer that the veteran wants. But the common questions are, am I entitled to it? Am I going to get it? When am I going to get it? And the answers to all that is, our job is to prepare the strongest case that we possibly can to submit to VA. The determination on who, how, when is made by VA. We can't tell you that.
Right.
Somebody said it takes 6 to 8 weeks to process a claim. I tell them it takes 6 to 8 weeks plus or minus 18 months.
And another great thing about our chapter is that if you're a woman veteran, we have 4 that I know of off the top of my head, women service officers. So if you're not comfortable discussing your claim with a male CSO, there are 4 different women that work. We have our commander, Trish Thompson. There's Phyllis Romero, Michelle Davis, and then does Michelle Mitzner still? Okay, and then Pam also. So that's 5 that are available.
All NCOs and commissioned officers. So and they're there. Yeah. I don't mind. I mean, I have an advantage over a lot of people because I happen to be the only boy in a family of 5 and the youngest. So I'm very, very comfortable working with female veterans.
Right.
But I do understand that their comfort level as far as dealing with a male.
Right, it's
CSO,
about them, not us.
But that's well said. It's all about them.
Mm-hmm. So in closing, do you have any last words that you'd like to share with us, or would you like to give a shout out to any family?
Well, my family knows that they're out there, and my youngest is 48 years old, so
okay,
he's up in Mesa. So
all right.
But
how many kids do you have?
I have 3 children. 1 passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that.
But passed away as a young child. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did not know that.
The wife of 53 years that is the most tolerant woman I've ever met in my entire life.
And an elk.
And she's a past exalted ruler.
Yep.
And a past district deputy grand exalted ruler in the elk organization. So very, very proud of her.
Yes.
But I appreciate the opportunity to come in. I truly do. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for coming in and sharing your story with us. Can you hang around for a couple minutes? I got a couple quick announcements to share. So once again, that's Ken Adams from the does the volunteer work at the Elks and at the Disabled American Veterans Chapter 14. So again, thank you, Ken, for coming in and sharing your time and your story with us. We very much appreciate all that you do here in Cochise County, and thank you.
You're welcome.
Some of the events that we have coming up here at the Warrior Healing Center on Monday, January 15th, starting at 11:30, going to 12:30, we have the Breast Cancer Support Group that takes place here in the Warrior Healing Center main conference room. On Monday, January 15th, starting at 1730 hours and going to 1900 hours, is the Discovery Bible Study, and that takes place in the Warrior Healing Center's military library that we have here. On Tuesday, January 16th, starting at 1000 hours, going to 11:30, it's the Tucson Veterans Center. It's the Vietnam Veteran Recovery and Support Group, and that will be taking place here at the main conference center at the Warrior Healing Center. on Tuesday, January 18th, starting at 1,800 hours, going to 2,000 hours, is a legal and finance seminar. It is the estate and contingency planning, and that will be at the Warrior Healing Center's main conference room as well. I highly encourage you to attend that because it's a class that teaches you about your final deployment, as Michelle Mietzner would tell me. On Wednesday, January 17th, starting at 1,700 hours, going to 1,800 hours, is the Wandering Wednesdays. It's at Tompkins Park, and it's with Team RWB, and Tompkins Park is there on 7th Street in Sierra Vista. And a couple more announcements here real quick. Next Thursday, January 18th, starting at 0900, going to 1,100 hours, is our Bagels and Brew at the Warrior Healing Center Rec and Main Conference Room. Our Bagels and Brew is very well attended, and our Cooks Club does a phenomenal job putting on quite a bit of work. Hey, Dad, it's a great interview. Let's see, at Thursday, January 18th, starting at 1,200 hours, going to 1,330 hours, is our Warrior Healing Center volunteer meeting taking place at the main conference center. And our last announcement for today, starting Friday, January 19th at 1,700 hours, going to 1,800 hours, is our drum circle that will be taking place here at the Warrior Healing Center as well. So that's it for today. I will be back with another better next Friday morning at 9 o'clock. So thank you, everybody that was able to tune in and watch live. If you're watching this afterwards, please make any comments or suggestions that you have into the comment section. We do monitor the comment section often, and we would be more than happy to respond or get back. So, and again, thank you very much. Have a great day and a great weekend, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.